Would you like to arrange widgets side by side in your Flutter app, just like we have this image, this text, and this button? Well, in this video, I will show you just how to do that using the row widget. This is the FlutterCoach. Let's dive in. We want to start by creating our project. So we go to terminal, new terminal, and we put in the command for creating a new project. Flutter create demo app. So let's minimize this terminal here and go to the lib folder, which has our main.file. So this is where we will be making all our changes. So a lot of the code here we will not need because this is the default code. So we'll go ahead and remove what we do not need and remain with this body because this is where we shall write our code. Then I will go ahead and rename our app to demo app. And we are good to go. So here's where we'll create our row widget. And the row widget has several properties, and we can see these properties by holding Control and spacebar. You can see we have the children property and the rest. We'll start with the children because this is what we want to put inside the row, and then we'll look at the other properties. The children. And for our children, we shall put in containers, each container with its color and a number, so that we can see how the items inside the row get laid out depending on the other properties that we shall be editing. So we'll have a container here, and we shall give it a color, and we shall make that red. We shall give it a height of 100 pixels and a width of 100 pixels. And then we shall add some text to this container so that we can be able to identify this specific container. We shall put the text as the number 1. And we need to make this number a bit big so that we can clearly see it. To do that, we will change the style property. And here we shall have a font size of 50. Shall put in our commas so that we can have a nice format when we save this, and the const keyword here because these properties are fixed. Let's get rid of this space, add a comma here. Nice. So let's go ahead and build this, and we shall build this on the browser. So how you do that is you come to the bottom right where you have this Windows, and you click on it and you will get these options. We shall go with Chrome because we want to build this on the Chrome browser. So we go run, start debugging. And here is our built app. We'll go ahead and increase the size of the window so that we can see it clearly. And now we shall add containers to this row so that we can see what the row widget does. Back in the editor, we get rid of this inspector tab. We do not need that, as well as the terminal for now. And I will go ahead and copy paste several containers in this row. So I do not like the behavior of reloading all the time. So I shall come and change that here in the settings. Hot reload on save, never. And there we have our 5 containers, each with a different color and a different number. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like. And there you have it. This is what the row looks like. It arranges its children side by side. And so you can see the order of the items. So let's go ahead and now look at the different properties of the row widget that we can edit. Now for better demonstration of these properties, we will put this row inside a container with a color. And you will see why I am doing this, because the container with the color will help us see how these properties are adjusting. So I shall go ahead and do that right now. And how I'll do that is I'll highlight this word row, and then the shortcut Control-Shift-R gives us the ability to wrap the widget. We could either use the shortcut or just type in the code, but the shortcut works faster. So I shall go ahead and select wrap with container, and as you can see, it puts the row inside a container. And so we shall give our container a height of 300 pixels and a width of 1000 pixels, and then a color which is black. But then we have the options of different shades of black, which is what you're seeing here. And so if we use the shortcut control and space, we're able to see what these shades look like. So I think black 12 looks nice, and so that's the shade that we will go with. So let's rebuild this and see what that looks like. And so we'll go ahead and maximize this window, and you can see we have the container around our row. Now back to the properties. Let's get rid of that inspector tab. And so the first property we're going to look at, again, the shortcut is control space, and we can see all the properties. The first one is cross-axis alignment, and this means that we are changing the alignment of the items with regards to the axis that cuts across the row, right? As we know, rows, they move horizontally, they move sideways, and so we're going to be changing properties relating to how these items are arranged vertically, right? Because that is the cross axis of the row. This is the main axis of the row. This is the cross axis of the row. So let's go ahead and type that in. We could just select it from the list there. And so again, we hit control and space, and we see the options that we have. So the first option is baseline. I shall come back to this because it's a bit more complicated than these others. But then I want us to start with center. So just click center, and this is the default, right? Because you can see vertically, this row is in the center. And so if we hit reload, there will be no change because it's already centered vertically. So the other options we have are start, which means now it will start at the beginning of the column. And you can see that just happened. The other option we have is end. And if we load that, we can see what just happened. So it's at the end of the column. And so to see the other options that we have, again, control and space, we have stretch. So stretch means that it will stretch the children to fill up the vertical space that we have. So let's go with stretch and reload that and see what that looks like. As you can see, the children have been stretched to fill up the column or the vertical space. Then back to this baseline option. So baseline has to do with the alignment of the text. And as you can see, text always has this sort of imaginary line on which all the letters rest, which is where you'd have your underline if you are underlining text. And so if you want the children of the row to be arranged or to be aligned with regards to that imaginary line, then that is the option that we use. But then we need to define this imaginary line. And so we have a property here known as text baseline. This is a property of the row. And if you hover over the word text baseline, you can see that it takes a text baseline property. So text baseline, and we have two options. We have alphabetic, which is the letters of the alphabet, which we are used to, and we have ideographic. So for now, we shall go with alphabetic. And so this will give us the underline, imaginary line that we normally use when underlining text. So once we have defined the text baseline, we can go ahead and type in CrossAxisAlignment.baseline, which is the option we have here. And so if we reload this, you might see no difference. But for us to see the difference, I want us to change the font sizes of each of these numbers, and you will see what will happen to these containers. So let's leave the first one at font size 50. Let's change this to font size 20. Let's have this at font size 10, and finally this one at font size 70. So we have mixed up font sizes, and we want to see the effect of that with regards to baseline alignment. So you can see what has happened. The items have been realigned, but then the baseline is the same. The baseline does not change. So that is the baseline property. Let's change this back to 50. Now let's look at another property, MainAxisAlignment. So this is the alignment of the items in the row with regards to the horizontal axis, which is how the row aligns its items. So if we hit Control and space, we can see the options that we have here. MainAxisAlignment.center centers everything along the horizontal axis. So if we rebuild this, we can see that everything is now at the center horizontally. And so the other option is end, which means everything will now be at the end of the horizontal axis. And that's what just happened. Now the other option that we have is space around. That means it's going to put space around each of the items. So let's rebuild this and see what happens. So you can see each item has equal space around it, right? So this space to the left of this item and the space to the right of it up to this point is the same. Then for the next one, the space on its left and the space on its right is the same, and that happens for all the items. Then the other option that we have with regards to main axis alignment is space between. So this will only put space between the items. And so at the edges, you'll notice that we will not have space. As you can see, we only have spaces between the items. The other option that we have is space evenly. So that means between the edges and the items that are next to the edges, and also between the items themselves, the spacing will be even. And so let's reload this and see what that looks like. And you can see this space is equal to this and this and this. They're all the same. So let's see the other option that we have. Start. Start is the default, right? This is what happens by default. You have your row, your items starting at the beginning of the row, that is horizontally. Are you enjoying this video so far? Please consider liking it and subscribing to this channel. Let's go on. So let's check out another property of the row that we can edit. That would be main axis size. Now I won't go into this one because this one needs a bit of a more complicated setup, but basically you have two options, which are the min or minimum option, which means that the length of the row will be the smallest possible. That means it will be just the size of the row that the items in the row need. There will be no extra space in the row. And if you go with max or maximum, that means the length of the row will be the maximum that it can be. That means it will take up space even if it doesn't need extra space for its children, but it will take up all the space that it can possibly take. So I will not go into that because it needs a pretty complex setup. I will go to the next item, which is TextBaseline, which we have used and we've seen how that works. TextDirection. So we have two typical directions. We normally write from left to right, and that is how our items are being arranged. You've seen that our first item is on the left, and that's the order of the items. But you can change this around and have them start from the right. So TextDirection dot right to left. If you would like to know the kind of property that is expected or the kind of input that is expected, you simply hover over a property and you can see here it says TextDirection. So that's the input that it needs. So right to left, let's reload this and see what happens. And our items now begin from the right and flow leftwards. So let's look at a different property, vertical direction. Normally, we start from the top, whether it's text. Our normal convention is to start everything from the top and flow downwards, but you can change that around. You could change your vertical direction. Again, we have over this and see this is what we need to put in here. So vertical direction dot up. Now this is the opposite of what we normally do. And so to see the effect of this, we'll need to change a property that we saw earlier, which is cross-axis alignment, right? You remember it was the vertical alignment of the row with regards to the space around it. So we'll put this in as cross-axis alignment dot start. So now our items, we've said vertically, we start from the bottom. So if we have said that we want to start from the beginning of the cross axis, then what happens is our row will go to the bottom because now our vertical axis starts from the bottom. So if we reload, we can see that now our row starts from the bottom. If we change this to the end of the cross axis, the row now starts from the top. And so we've seen those properties, and that's it. Those are all the properties we have. Key is also a special property that requires a bit of context to explain, so I will not go into key. But basically, it's like assigning an ID to this specific row, so that if you have an application with many different widgets, let's say you have many more rows and you have rows being created as the app runs, you can use the key to track each row. And so now we shall combine a few properties and see what interesting outcome we can have. So the two properties I want us to combine are main axis alignment and put that at the center. That means our row items will now be centered. And then I want us to put the text direction and we shall set that to right to left. So let's see what we come up with in this combination. And there is our row. We can see that the row is centered and our items start from right and flow leftwards. So this is all the code we've written in this demo. You can get this code on GitHub. Check out the link in the description to demo 1. So check out demo 1 in the description. But if you'd like to get the code from here, I will scroll through it so that you can see the code we've written. about the app that I showed you in the beginning of this video. Here's the code. Remember, you can get this code on GitHub. The link is in the description. Look out for the link to demo 2 and you will find that code on GitHub. If you want to get the code from here, I will slowly scroll through this and feel free to get it from here. If you have found value in this video, be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel with the notification bell on so that you can be notified each time I upload a new video. Please let me know in the comment section if there's a specific widget you'd like me to cover. This has been the FlutterCoach, and I will see you in the next one.